Some say he's a technical whiz. Some say he was born in Cornwall. While some say he's on a journey. It's The Journey, and here's your host, David Hackett.
Our guest today on The Journey has more than 35 years' experience leading strategic learning and business performance improvement in Fortune 100 companies and in coaching individuals to create and implement a compelling vision for success. Our guest uses a proven process to achieve results for both individuals and organizations. I'm not going to say any more. Not about me. And it's not about me telling her journey. We welcome Linda M. Hogan, or Linda Hogan, to The Journey.
Well, thank you, David. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you. Now, this always throws people because obviously people think when they see my pre-interview process about thinking, is it a pre-interview or is it the interview? But I always like to have, that's why I always send the bio information in the description when I send the information across, so people are aware that it is the interview, but it's about your journey. So your journey begins when and what started your journey?
Well, I think I started my journey, I'm going to say in my 20s, when I was 20, and would you like me to tell a story?
You may.
Okay, thank you. So I was 20 exactly, and with my soon-to-be husband, future husband, Bill, and we were sitting on a lake, a beautiful lake in upstate New York, and it was the kind of beautiful sunny day where you could dream anything would be possible. And we were inspired. And I said, I want to be a consultant to businesses and travel all over the world. I want to work with women. I don't want to stay home. We agreed we wanted children. My husband said he wanted to buy an old house and fix it up. And I agreed. And he said he wanted to be a stay-at-home dad. And we said we wanted beautiful, smart children. And we wanted to travel and, of course, be millionaires. And by the grace of God, all of that and more has come true. We were married 5 years later, and I was a social worker working with developmentally disabled adults. And I met a person who was a business consultant. I asked him how to do it, how he did it. And he came and he basically sold my manager and me on a training program. And it was so successful, I later called the company and said, hey, can I buy some of those materials? And they said, have you ever thought about being a consultant? And I said, well, yes, as a matter of fact, I have. And my husband knew these were boxes of materials. In those days, they were cassette tapes and a book. And he said, don't buy any of those materials. So I went down there and to Texas, heard what they had to say, and bought a distributorship. And that was going to be the down payment on our next house. And I was still working as a consultant still working as a social worker, and was selling these training programs on the side. And I gradually decided I was making enough money that I could do this on my own. And I left that company to go full-time into my own business. And here's where my journey gets a little yucky, because here I am. I'm 28, 27, calling on businesses and telling them I can improve their productivity. And I myself have never worked in a business before. I was a social worker. I didn't I didn't know how to sell. I'm learning how to sell. And I was drinking every day. I was drinking every day since I was 19. And I thought when I left the social work job, oh, good, I'll be leaving these people who are a bad influence on me. Of course, it was always everybody else. And what I realized was that it wasn't everybody else, that I was fine just drinking by myself. And I remember one day I would buy a good bottle of wine and then cheap stuff. So I finished the good bottle of wine and I was drinking the cheap stuff. And I remember saying to myself, I hate this. It tastes awful, but I have to have it. And here I am teaching people how to set goals in their life, how to improve their businesses, how to be a better leader. And I'm feeling like an imposter. And the further along I went drinking, the more I felt like an imposter. And I just wanted to die. And I remember driving home one day, after I picked my husband up from work, and he worked in the restaurant business, so it was late at night, and I had already been drinking a lot. And I won't tell you about all the adventures I had drinking. That they just, us alcoholics do crazy stuff and then we'll become embarrassed or ashamed of it, and then we drink more to cover it up, and always in denial that drinking is really the problem. My husband said, "You've been drinking, let me out of the car." And I refused to stop the car and let him out. And he said, I grew up with an alcoholic and I didn't have a choice, and now I have a choice. And I don't want to live with an alcoholic. And so, and I knew somewhere that was true. I knew that there was a better me. And so that week I went to a treatment center to rule out this possibility that I was an alcoholic. It must be something else. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And they said, yes, you definitely are. And told me to go to meetings, and people said, try this way of life for 90 days. And if you don't like it, we'll gladly refund your misery. And that was in 1984. And I've been sober since then, and I'm so grateful. I met this wonderful group of women, and I had been reading all along the way, reading self-help books, and I loved Shakti Gawain, creative visualization. I read Norman Vincent Peale books. I read all the positive thinking books that you can. And what attracted me really was the creating a vision, because my husband and I had created that vision, and we had bought a house and he was fixing it up. And I did have my own business and was a consultant. So some of it was coming true.
Mm.
And so I gathered this group of women in my living room, and we met once a month. We were old, young, married, single, divorced. We were black, white, brown, childless, had children, grandchildren. You know, we're all different. The thing that we had in common was we were all trying to recover from addictions and alcoholism. And we wanted to find a better life. We wanted to look at the possibilities. And so I led them through guided imageries, which is helping them to create a picture in their mind of the ideal them, of their ideal future, of the possibilities. And what happens, David, when we envision, when we are led in a guided imagery, that part of the brain that's the inner critic steps aside, and we're open more to our higher self, to God, if you will, to our spiritual selves. And the things that these women created were just phenomenal. They became more empowered. They and I don't take all credit for it. We held ourselves accountable, and we set goals. My master's thesis was on the power of goal setting and how to use it to improve productivity. And I had studied visualization. And so we replaced disempowering beliefs with vision that empowers and emboldens. And I'm so thrilled that the wonderful transformations took place, and I had to write it down. And so I wrote this book, Envision Your Extraordinary Life, Living Happy, Joyous, and Free.
Yeah. And talking about visions, it's like, and this is how I've always seen it, when you're helping people, your vision originally is just a blank canvas, and you're fitting jigsaw pieces into that vision to make the better you.
That's right. Yes, yes, yes. It's like the paints are laid out before us, and they're all different colors, and we can use all the colors and the shapes and the pictures and see those possibilities. You know, some people have a really difficult time seeing the possibilities. Maybe they know that there's a better them and they have this yearning, but they don't quite know what it is. And so I encourage people to dream, to write down their dreams. When you're driving by something that stirs your soul, write it down. When you hear other people talk about an adventure that they went on, maybe traveling, and you want that for yourself, write it down. When you think about your relationships and perhaps how you want to deepen them, perhaps you want to deepen your spirituality and grow that way. Maybe you want to grow mentally, learn more, write it down. So there's all those possibilities. And yes, we can put those into a picture of our future selves. And it's important then that we act from that picture of our future selves, act like that person would act. If you want to be a painter, then paint as though you're very successful. If you want to be an author, write. And write as though you're successful, as though you're a great writer and you enjoy doing it.
But as you see from the title of the podcast, the general title is called The Journey, because the journey, I believe, and it's from experience myself, everyone has a journey in life. It's not always straightforward. It's because, you go along the freeway or motorway or autobahn. Yes, you go straight, but there's always turn-off, slip roads, junctions. You got to go try a diversion because that is part of life. You can't always be on the straight and narrow because you have to learn those diversions. You have to learn those alternative ways. The ultimate goal still leads you to where you want to go, but you have to still take that initial road. And the initial road for you was difficult. It sounds very difficult, and I'm not, saying it wasn't, because I'm not trying to upset anyone either, nor you, but being an alcoholic, that's your vision. You just saw one track. You just thought, this is the way, this is the way. It wasn't, and you learned that, and you learned to go those ways. And you said about having those visions where you can set goals in yourself to be the better you. That better you is going the diversion, the side roads, the bumpy roads.
That's right. We learn from all of those. And, they say that a plane, the biggest percentage of time, they're not going in the direction where they're going. And the same, like being in a sailboat, you're tacking in different directions, but you reach your destination. And so what I've learned from people in their journeys that there is a transformation process, and I lead people through that transformation process. Everybody has their own journey, but I believe that the first part of the journey is exploring. And what I mean by that is we're looking at the possibilities of where we want to go. We're building our dream list. When we're all younger, we have big dreams about who we want to become, what we want to be doing. And then somehow, somewhere along the way, most of us forget that that's what we wanted to do. Like my friend Caroline, who was a superintendent in a school system. And she realized in our group that she'd always wanted to be an interior designer. And so she remembered when she was little, she would design little houses and color them. And she decided at 46, she quit her job in upstate New York, moved to Manhattan, enrolled in a school of design, and became an interior designer for 20 years in New York City. And today she has a bed and breakfast, and it's beautiful.
So it says in one of the questions you posed to me to ask, but people often ask about extraordinary lives. Do you feel that people have a better understanding once they look at themselves as a whole, or is it just things that are fed to them?
Could you ask me that
Yeah,
again?
basically about extraordinary life. People often say it's usually by the thought process. Is the thought process natural, or is it just from what's given to them to understand their extraordinary life?
To me, an ordinary life is having the same life year after year, basically. So I have people who start in my masterminds and they say they want to lose 20 pounds. They want to write a book. They want to exercise more. They want to have better relationships. The next year, they have the same goals. The next year, they have the same goals. This is in the past, but then when they join my group, they see greater possibilities for themselves, and they feel more empowered. And so living an extraordinary life is feeling, doing, and being who you want to be, and growing and realizing more of the possibilities for yourself. You're expanding, you're thriving.
Yeah. So the key is that you learn in yourself how to be the better person. That's what I'm getting at. It's about,
Yes,
so the example I'll give is like, we know in the Bible the mustard seed was planted. That mustard seed was a small grain, but see how it grew to something much bigger.
that's right. That's right. We all have a seed of greatness in us.
So, when you wrote the book, how long ago was it, and why did you write it?
Well, I, like many people, had a goal of writing a book for many years. And so even 35 years ago, when I'm working with these women, I was writing down their stories. And then I started interviewing people who are leaders, who I knew had a vision, like Dennis Archer, who was a two-term mayor of Detroit. And so I included his story and the story of some other people that I knew of. And work got in the way. I was, by this time, I was working for a major Fortune 100 company, and I had been invited to start a training department. That was so successful that my European counterpart in human resources invited me to come to Europe and to lead learning for 80 sites in Europe. And so I'm working 60, 70, 80 hours a week doing that job. I had no time to write. And then I lost that job. I came back to the United States, and I was working in it was an automotive company, an automotive supplier. And it was at the decline of the automotive market, and a lot of people were laid off. I was laid off. And that turned into a wonderful opportunity where I had more time. And then just before COVID hit, I had requested, by now I'm working at consulting to Rolls-Royce, and I was full time. And I asked to reduce my hours to half time so that I could finish my book. And they granted me that because in fact, the plant was closing. I was working for sites across the US, but focused on one site half my time. And so I had 20 extra hours a week, plus the travel time, because everybody was home all the time, that I had even more time. And so I set out to write my book, and it was published. I published it a year and a half ago. So it took me 1 year to write the book, and I had a lot of help. In fact, my husband would give me feedback on what I had written. He was an English teacher, and I would get defensive. Like, who likes to be criticized, right? And so one day I asked him to read what I had written, and he said, "Did you write this morning?" And I said, "Yes, proudly." He said, "Well, don't write anymore today." And so that was his way of saying it really stunk what I wrote. And I laughed. And I knew then that we could work together, and that I could be more open to feedback, and that we do this journey with other people. And it's important to be open to other people and to accept help from other people. And so I did get a lot of help from other people. And why did I write it? I wrote it because I just had this burning desire that I wanted to get it out there. I wanted to share with people about this journey and this transformation process to go from dreaming when we explore to building a foundation of what's really important, to charting our course and making it more specific, embracing the journey, and which a lot of people find along the way that, like you mentioned before, there are valleys. there are traps along the way. There are roadblocks, and a lot of those roadblocks are what's right inside our heads. That's keeping us. It's our lack of belief. It's our belief in stories that we're telling ourselves, old stuff that's not true. A lot of people are telling themselves, I'm not good enough, I don't have enough, I don't do enough. And we need to believe that we are enough, we are perfect just as we are, that we're children of God, that we have enough and we do enough.
So where is your book available to buy?
It's on Amazon, amazon.com, or in other countries, in Amazon also.
Yeah. So it's just search for Linda Hogan, and then obviously you should be able to be found that way.
Yes, you can search for Linda Hogan. You can search for Envision Your Extraordinary Life.
Okay, so going into the future, because obviously we have to condense everything and then come to the future. How do you see the future for development of the skill set of people? Do you think they'd be more in tune with themselves to understand themselves more? Or do you think it's still a learning curve every day?
Well, the future for people who go through this process of transformation, I believe it's they're awakening to more possibilities, and they're ready to step out and take the action that needs to be taken, and overcoming those negative voices, that inner critic, and that they're growing emotionally, they're happier, joyous, let the joy in, and free, that they have deeper relationships with the people who are important to them, and that they see more possibilities and go after more possibilities for giving more back to the world. And our world's in a lot of trouble right now, and a lot of people suffering. And so it's important that we together can join and help one another to have better lives, to grow.
I understand that. Now, obviously, there is ways of contacting you, but how can people get in contact with you if they want to talk to you direct?
Well, they can send me an email, linda.hogan@envisionyourlife.coach, or go to my website, which is envisionyourlife.coach.
Okay.
And there you'll find a lot of guided imageries that you can use also on YouTube, Envision Your Life.
Okay. Last of all, what would you say to people watching or listening to this now to help them be the better themselves, to get them started in their journey?
Know that you have that seed of greatness within you, and write down all of your dreams, because writing crystallizes thought.
It does. Linda, thank you for sharing your journey with us today. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you, David. I enjoyed talking with you.
That was The Journey, hosted by Wise Words Imaging, hosted by David Hackett. Be sure to like, subscribe and listen to another journey coming soon.